Everybody. It's Laura from Healthy Carnivore. So I'll give a little background about myself. I am a registered nurse. I have been a nurse for over 22 years now. Started Ketogenic in 1991 and switched to Carnivore 6 years ago. So today's video is going to be short and sweet. I kind of want to go over some things that I have found just in my own life over 33 years of being cognizant of what you put in your body. So basically, as training for nurses and doctors, I'll just go over what I personally know for myself and speaking with several physicians over the years. Our nutrition education in the medical system was minimal. Most of the docs that you talk to will say that they learned enough to know how to do TPN, which is just nutrition through a vein, basically, is what they're taught to do if you have to go on that. And a little bit with diabetics, not much. Same with nursing, very minimal stuff was, it was like, how many calories is there in this or that? Very minimal of what it was. And so that's kind of what, unfortunately, that's what our doctors know. It's what the nurses know. Same with the nutritionists. The nutritionists follow the guidelines that the FDA puts out, so you remember the old food pyramid. Anybody that thinks 7 to 11 servings of grains, pastas, and rice is healthy for anybody, especially if you are borderline diabetic or are diabetic, family history of diabetes. If you're not diabetic and you follow that, you become diabetic. So even the education for them is questionable, just because, the funding comes from these big food companies and they want to sell more food to us. And I mean, it's an unfortunate thing, but it's the way that we've seen. So I do have a regular MD that I work with, but I also recommend that if you're trying to get on a health journey and figure out your best health for you, I do really recommend holistic, functional, or integrative medical doctors or nurse practitioners that have went on for that too. Metabolic is another term you can type in, metabolic health doctors. That is somebody that's going to work with they just go more in depth. They have more education. They went back to get after they were done doing their primary education because it's not taught. So they're very good about knowing how this is. So another thing that I hear a ton about is everybody is so afraid of cholesterol. That started in the 70s. It was like everybody needed to do low fat, low animal protein, low saturated fat, butter, eggs. And, it never really made sense to me. I was like, eggs? I was like, God made eggs and he made meat and I'm like, I just can't imagine that that's poison to our body. So I dove very deep into how cholesterol works for the body. And this is something you guys can look up. You can go out on, Google or whatever your search engine, and you can look up what does cholesterol do for the body. Okay, so it is so vital that we have a organ called your liver, and it makes 85 up to 85% of the amount of cholesterol that you need, depending on what's going on in your body at any given time. So what you take in, you're only going to take in up to 15% of what you're eating, and the rest is going to go out in waste. So, cholesterol starts all of your sex hormones. It is the only way your vitamin D is ever going to absorb to help your bones. You've got to have the cholesterol. You have to have the cholesterol in your body to carry your immune cells to drop off to the places it needs to for healing. You are also going to need cholesterol because your brain is up to 65% fat. It's cholesterol itself. It's just a bunch of nerves and neurons, and it has this coating over it, and it's just fat. Your nerves in your body they have a double layer of a myelin sheath over it that is a double layer of fat. It's a phospholipid bilayer. And we all oxidize over time. You're going to get notches out of there. How do you fill that if you're not taking in fat and also you are taking a medication that blocks that? The old adage was high cholesterol leads to heart attacks, strokes, blah, blah, blah. I'm an old cardiac nurse, and I can promise you the majority of people that came in happen to have coronary artery bypass or coming in with heart attacks and strokes. Their cholesterol was in the tank. It was actually very, very low. So their immune system was not functioning correctly. They were not myelinating these areas in the brain, which leads to Alzheimer's, dementia, ALS, Parkinson, MS. All of these conditions are made worse if you don't have enough cholesterol in the body. So the other thing is we've gotten used to, especially in the United States, that food is only about entertainment. Every birthday party, every celebration, every holiday. And I think it's a healthier adage to think about food as fuel. So just like the gas you put in your car, you're not going to put in the junkiest gas. If you can afford to put in good gas, you would. You're not going to go put diesel in a gasoline engine, vice versa. You're just not going to do that. Well, the same thing is for food, because food is our fuel. So what you eat, drink, smoke, what you're around, those things, the body has to break down. So you have to get, the best that you can put in your body. And I would argue that the majority, which I know a lot of people are going to hate this, most of the raw vegetables, unless you have fermented them, or like if you eat cooked vegetables, you would have to cook them about to death, which is okay, in order to break down the cellulose enough that you would be able to extract most of the healthy benefits that you get from those. So that would be two options. Back on the cholesterol thing. So, because it drives me insane when people are like, oh, my cholesterol is high. And I'm like, okay. Heart attacks and strokes and needing all these, treatments for those, they're the number one and number two thing that we still have in the United States. Yet fat consumption, saturated fat, animal proteins, meats, those have dropped significantly over 40 years. Also, people have been taking statins since 87 when it was first developed. Lipitor was the first one to come on market. So if cholesterol is the demon they talk about, and this fat is so dangerous and meat's so dangerous, and it causes heart disease and stroke, why are those numbers still sky high? No drop in those at all. Nothing significant. So that just makes you go, okay, common sense says if you've done these things and it didn't get this outcome, then there's something not right in that process. What is that they say? The insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. I'm not one of those kind of people. So I went against the grain. I went against what my doctor thought in 91. And I'm better for it. I'm much healthier. And once I took care of him in 2007 or 8, he was happened to have a bypass. He then switched to keto. He no longer takes a statin, but he has to still prescribe statins because it's part of what most hospital protocols say to do. So he still has to recommend it. With that being said, any recommendation made by anybody is still up to you. It is your choice what to do with your body. Nurses and doctors, we are dudes and chicks just like you. Yes, we've had some additional education, but some of that you have to look back and go, was that education correct? Just like history books. Are they always correct? I think if you go back and look at some of your history books and talk with your elder family members, you will know that it's not always true. Sometimes it's what propaganda, they want it to be put out there. So another thing is some of the diseases that over 33 years I have seen people be able to completely resolve. kidney disease, and I'm talking dialysis patients reversing. I'm talking people who had had strokes before, lessening the symptoms of depression, anxiety, dementia, Alzheimer's, ALS, MS, Parkinson's, getting the fats back in the body. These are things that I have seen people reverse, and diabetes. That's probably been my number one favorite thing to watch, is to see a patient who's taking insulin, who's taking medications like metformin and glimepiride and Amaryl and Actos and all of those, to changing their diet and putting into their body the right kind of fuel, to no longer needing any of those diabetic medications. And personally myself, I've had 2 patients that, within 6-8 months, they had their diabetes diagnosis removed. They were no longer considered diabetic. Their A1Cs, their hemoglobin A1Cs went into excellent range. The one, his is better than mine. And he had been diabetic for 25 years and been on insulin for 15 and is on none of it. And, the greatest thing is to walk in and to hear them go, I save $800 a month because I don't have to buy this and I don't have to buy that, and for medication and my strips and, the Libre system, which is great to have, but he no longer has to do that. He's not tied to anything. And he has that freedom to know, if I go out to eat and let's say he goes through a fast food restaurant like Culver or something like that, he gets the hamburger or cheeseburger, he just gets it without the bun, and he doesn't get the French fries. So he may get 2 of those burgers and a glass of water. So what? He's full, he's got his nutrients, and he's healthier. So there's nothing better that I have seen than see people reverse these things. It makes me extremely, extremely happy when, somebody will contact me and be like, hey, look what my hemoglobin A1C is, or look at my kidney numbers. Like my nephrologist, which is a kidney specialist, is like, no way, eating meat is dangerous. Why are they healed? Why have their kidneys healed? I'm like, we are made up of amino acids. So if we're not taking in amino acids, I don't know how we expect our bodies to heal. So that's just my spiel. Also, go out and look up insulin resistance. That is a big deal. The more carbs you eat, the more insulin resistance. Your cells stay closed. They don't want to open up to let the glucose get into the cell. The more you do that, the worse you're going to get. And I think if you just look around in your community, you can just see heavier children, sicker adults, younger ages of cancer, younger ages of open heart surgery. Go look up Dr. Avadia. He is a cardiothoracic surgeon. And he talks about how when he first went into practice of doing open heart surgeries, most of the patients were like 70s, 80s. And then 10 years later, it was like 60s, 70s. He's had people in, I believe he said 39 or 40, very young, have an open heart bypass. And they're not eating the fats and the meats. And, they're trying to do what they were told by their medical establishments. And they're sick. So go look up somebody like him and just dive in. Like, you need to be the captain of your body and take in information, and decide what you want to do with that information. I've had doctors who, want me to take a cholesterol pill. No, ma'am. I have the right to say no. I'm not going to. And, it's been 33 years since they wanted me to take a statin. And I've had the testing done, the coronary artery calcium test, 0. I had the soft plaque looked for, and I have none. So how can that be when I'm eating exactly the opposite of what they've said? And I'm not alone. There are thousands, tens of thousands of people walking around doing that. Look at your African nations, your island nations, where those people eat their specific food to their area. Higher fats. They're not walking around, eating broccoli stalks. They're eating the water buffalo. They're eating the type of deer that they have, the rabbits, different things that they have. They're eating those foods. and they're not dying of heart disease and strokes unless we take our food over there and then they start to develop our diseases. Island nations who eat a lot of seal, fish from the ocean, they live on ice. They're not growing fruit trees, and they are doing great unless we take them our Americanized food. So you have to just remember, you are what you eat. And I would just as soon be a hamburger without a bun or a ribeye and ribeye fat, personally. Some people can do quite a few vegetables, and I say that's great too. But you have to be aware and cognizant of what you're putting into your body or on your body. So that's another talk for another day. But hopefully, this is just a little bit of information to give you so that you can go out and get better informed for yourself, looking up what cholesterol does, what's insulin sensitivity and resistance, diabetes. Go to Chat GPT and just type in, what diets best help with diabetes, heart disease, da da da. Type those things in and see what comes up. I think you're going to be very surprised, because it is not going to be what the commercials on TV tell you. And that's another thing. You want to really get worked up, at least for me, don't listen to the commercials. Mute it and just watch it. And then the next time, close your eyes, have the volume up, and just don't watch it and just listen to it. And it's almost like it's two completely different commercials on the medicine ads. Hopefully someday those will be gone again. Those came back also in around 87, which seems to be very convenient with a lot of other things that happened at that time. So anyway, hopefully this was educational, and hopefully you got something out of it. So you guys have a wonderful day. As I always say on my videos, meet, heat, eat, and repeat.